All right, Mariana, you can go ahead and do your intro.
Thank you. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Vamos a estar ofreciendo interpretación simultánea al español durante esta reunión. Si desea escuchar la interpretación al español, haga clic en el botón de interpretación en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla Zoom. Verá un icono en forma de globo terráqueo que se encenderá después de estas instrucciones. Si nos está acompañando a través de la aplicación Zoom para smartphone, seleccione su idioma haciendo clic en donde dice More o más en los 3 puntos en la esquina inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione Language Interpretation o interpretación del idioma y después elija Spanish o español y haga clic en donde dice Done o listo. Si desea escuchar solo al intérprete y no a los oradores originales, asegúrese de hacer clic donde dice Mute Original Audio. We will be offering simultaneous interpretation during this meeting. If you wish to hear Spanish interpretation, please click the interpretation button at the bottom right of your Zoom screen. You'll see a globe icon that will be turned on right after these instructions. If you're joining us via the Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More and then the 3 dots in the bottom right corner of your screen. Select Language Interpretation, then choose Spanish and click Done. If you wish to hear only the interpreter and not the original speaker, be sure to click Mute Original Audio. Back to you, Brad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Thank you. Welcome everyone to Evening with the Administration. Today is May 25th, and we are starting now. And I would like to thank everyone who participated through our gala. It was an awesome, successful event. After 2.5 years, it was great to see so many teachers and so many staff and all the administrators and even Mr. Vernon Moore from our Board of Trustees. Thank you for coming and joining us. It was a great, successful event. Like I said, the numbers will be out by next week. I hope so, because we are still selling few things, teachers' outings and things like that. And we don't have the final numbers now, but we made a great, successful event. And I have a new request for you. Our board is looking for new members. The election has come now. So we are looking for a secretary, a fundraising coordinator, an elementary school room parent coordinator, and the treasurer was filled with our present elementary school coordinator. So we are looking for the secretary, fundraiser, and elementary school coordinator. Please go to foaea.org and find the forms and fill it out and send it to us, or just send your emails to communications@foaea.org and we will get back to you. Thank you on that. And to all the administrators who are here today, thank you so much, Mrs. Bowders, Mr. Truckers, and our superintendent, Dr. David Sharetta. So I would like to ask Dr. David Sharetta to start the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Peggy, for once again, and to Friends for hosting this Evenings with Admin, and echoing what you put out there, Peggy, about the gala. It was wonderful to see so many people in person, not wearing sweatpants. I wanted to thank you, Peggy. I wanted to thank the gala committee, Matt Kill for his role in procuring items for the fundraising portion of the gala. And I think it was a nice return to as close as we can get to normalcy. And so thank you for that. For today, I have a couple, I'm just looking here at my list. I have a couple of kind of 30,000 foot level comments, and then I'll turn it over to the respective principals. First of all, you probably by now, judging by the number of text messages and emails that I've received, you've seen that San Diego Unified School District is returning in some situations under some conditions to an indoor mask mandate. In a little bit, Kathy Montes is going to go over where we sit in relation to that. But I just wanted to be clear with everyone that because we're our own LEA, we don't necessarily follow the directives of San Diego Unified School Board. That having been said, they are definitely the biggest player in the region. And we realize that many of our families have students in Einstein as well as in district schools. And it would be foolhardy for us to not look and watch what San Diego Unified is doing as they try to judge and measure what's happening with this recent uptick in cases. And so in a little bit, Kathy's going to talk more about how that applies to us and what the future might look like. I also wanted to remind everyone that our board is looking for up to 2 new board members. So the AEA Board of Trustees, there's an email that went out. There's information on the website to that effect. And so if you're interested or you know of someone who may be interested who you feel fits the general descriptors there, then they can go through that process. And on the website it describes it's a multi-step process to move towards being a board member. Want to remind everyone to please fill out the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan survey that went out in email. And I think, I don't want to misspeak, but I also think there's a link on the AEA website that helps into the twilight zone. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Yeah, me too. I was also.
Okay. So we're in the final stages of budget planning for next school year. And one of the metrics that's really important to us is student attendance. So the state provides a funding amount. I'm simplifying, but the state provides a funding amount. And we're fortunate to be, at least at this point, in a situation where the state of California is flush with cash. And so there's a pretty decent increase for the 22-23 school year. But the other part of that metric is student attendance. So we don't just get a dollar amount per student. We get a prorated amount based on the average daily attendance in our schools. And we typically budget at 97.5%. We've done that for almost 20 years. But because of COVID, we've really been rocked attendance-wise. I mean, I can't think of a better word than rocked, but I'm sure there's one out there, but it's really impacted us. We've lost to date probably $600,000 that we didn't budget for. And so we're making a real push for fall 2022. We're going to be relentless in a positive way about student attendance. And we're going to aim a little lower than 97. The board will probably land somewhere around 96%, but it'd be fantastic to exceed that. The reason I bring it up is because you're going to hear us harping on student attendance. We're going to have action teams that'll be doing home visits in the fall, and we need folks to be in attendance. Obviously, if there's an unforeseen outbreak of COVID, we'll have to deal with that as it comes. But as we stand now, it'll be a situation as normal with students in person in the fall. Want to make a quick comment about German and San Diego High School. There's been quite a flurry of attention and opinions and perspectives on what's happening with German at San Diego High going forward, what Einstein's role in that is, what our role isn't, what we have done, what we haven't done. I know today's call isn't going to set it all straight, but I want to take a minute to just lay out where we are right now vis-a-vis that program at San Diego High and what some of our plans are going forward. So for the last 16 years, we've had a partnership with San Diego High School that allows our students to have matriculation benefits to go to San Diego High School. About 8 years ago, we started paying for a German teacher at San Diego High School. We paid part of their salary, the German government paid part of their salary, and the purpose of that was really to allow our students to continue with their German as part of the IB credential at San Diego High. What's happened over the years is that, quite frankly, the number of students taking German at San Diego High has continued to decrease for a host of reasons, probably some of which some of them I can't explain, but suffice to say that as the numbers dwindled, San Diego High came to us in January of this year and said, you know, because you guys are going to open your high school, we're going to sunset German at San Diego High. We want to talk about how we can do that responsibly. We don't want to leave anybody in the lurch, et cetera. I've said it in private, I said it in public, that Einstein would do everything in our power, including paying for a German teacher, including continuing to pay after we've even opened our high school, because I didn't want to have a situation where a student's like a junior in San Diego High, and then we open our high school and we go, we're done. And now what does that kid do? So we wanted to support this as best we could. Unfortunately, the German teacher who is currently at San Diego High has selected to return to Germany effective the end of this school year. I don't want to comment on personnel issues, but suffice it to say that we're in the process of trying to find a replacement for that teacher. We're looking at some options that involve even seeing if we can offer high school German classes at our middle school for credit, but that would require an MOU with San Diego Unified School District to allow them to do that. They do it with community colleges all the time, so we're seeing if we can do that, but those processes take time. But I want to be really clear about something, that this isn't some plan on our part to try to not support German. We've invested almost $1 million since this program started, and we'll continue to support it. So I wanted to kind of diffuse some of the rumors that are out there that somehow Einstein backed off on our commitment to German. It's actually quite the opposite. So we've been paying for a position, we've been paying for professional development, we've been keeping that relationship with the German government strong so that those funds can flow. But there sometimes are elements outside of our control, like personnel making decisions about whether they're going to stay at a school or not. So that's where we are as of today, and it could change in the next couple days or weeks. We've held a webinar or a Zoom. Mr. Trackus and the principal at San Diego High co-hosted a Zoom about a month or so ago and talked about this, and I think there's been some additional information sessions. Some of this is only relevant really if you are if you have a kid in high school at San Diego High and they're somewhere in that IB diploma pathway and they're reliant upon German for that. So I want to put that out there. The last thing I want to just bring up is a difficult thing to talk about. I assumed it was going to come up on tonight's call, so I wanted to just preempt it. So we're all heartbroken by first the events in Buffalo and then the events in Orange County of a day or two after Buffalo with a shooting in a church. And then, of course, the Southern Texas mass school shooting from yesterday, and still the casualty numbers. I sent out an internal email to the staff last night, and by the time I woke up in the morning, the casualty numbers had gone up. So because I'm the one who has the responsibility of writing and messaging with the community, I'm at a loss of what to say. That's why I haven't sent an email today. I really don't know what to say. I will think of something to say in the next couple of days and probably in the Friday message, but I did want to comment on a few kind of currents that I've heard out there. And then they have a tendency to kind of flare up when we have situations like this. So the question around armed officers on campus. So we typically get that when there's some shootings wherever they are in schools or churches. We're asked, well, when are you going to bring on armed officers on our campuses? The presence of armed personnel on school campuses isn't just a knee-jerk decision to make. It's something that has to be carefully considered. I was doing a little bit of research. About 40% or so of schools nationwide have a school resource officer. That's what the school police officers are called, but it's predominantly at the secondary level, and they're predominantly used for student discipline related matters, not necessarily guarding the front door. So we're not at the stage where we're going to just knee-jerk hire a bunch of armed officers to stand in front of our campuses. Does that happen in the future as part of a comprehensive approach? I don't know. The same would go for metal detectors. We're at an interesting juncture because on the one hand, we have obviously all of us, I'm a parent first and foremost, all of us will do anything to protect our own kids. And when you're an educator, you do anything to protect your kids too. On the other hand, we get calls all the time about when we're opening our campuses up for more volunteers, more presence on campus, et cetera. And so we're wrestling with that internally, right? We know what parts of the day our campuses are more vulnerable and less vulnerable. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? The more you open doors and the more people you have flowing through in a greater volume, the less you can control it. And so we're sorting through all of these questions. I think I'll say it again, and it's not a Pollyanna type of a response. The U.S. Secret Service has done a lot of research on what makes a safe school, what makes a safe church, what makes a safe organization. And we're different from a grocery store, right? Grocery stores might have their regular customers, but they also have a ton of new people all the time. We typically in our community have repeat, parents, and ideally you're with us for 3, 5, 7, 12, 13 years. And so what makes us strongest is when we recognize each other, when we acknowledge each other, when we are able to read situations of people who may seem like they're having a tough day or whatever this is. Now, it's been more challenging because we're masked. Folks have less interaction in the last couple of years than previous to that. But please know that both of our campuses, we do ongoing drills with active shooter mitigation strategies. Mr. Trackus and I are both trained ALICE facilitators. ALICE is an acronym for a strategic active way to confront the horrible, very remote, but devastating possibility of an armed person being on a campus and trying to harm people. We train in that. We have our drills. We try, if you've ever been, for example, at the elementary school and you watch how student pickup is at the end of the day, really try to be safe, especially with the younger kids in that process. But it is impossible. It is impossible, both at school and home and your grocery store and your church and wherever else, to be 100% safe at all times. And that's the scary part for us as parents, right? Is just that percentage chance, right? Statistically, students in general are really safe in schools. You have a lot of adult eyeballs on them. You have cameras. You've got all these things, but these are devastating events when they do happen. So I don't have a really comforting solution to that. But please know that if I look like I have dark lines under my eyes, it's because I haven't been sleeping well because of this. These are the things that keep me up at night. And I was in conversations with our board leadership yesterday and into the night on this very topic. So I just wanted to surface that. I'm sure that, there may be questions about it today. With that, I will defer. I think I'm not sure which principal is going first. Principal Bowders, did you want to start so we can go up through the grades?
Sure. Hi, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. I first want to also just acknowledge friends, the committee for the gala. You did a phenomenal job. I know how much work it is. It was a lot of fun. People had a blast. And, you know, I want to compliment you all because not even knowing if it was going to happen, you pushed it through and it was a really successful event. So thank you. I know how much work that is. I also want to thank the staff who was there and for all the auction items that they are having your kids have the opportunity to enjoy. And so I think it was very successful. I'm looking forward to hearing the numbers around that. There's been a lot of surveys that have come out lately. So we tried to stagger them, but I know that there's probably a lot in your inbox right now. First one, for some of you, we are doing our summer school, and the summer school will be beginning June 20th to July 20th. We always start by teacher recommendations. We don't have an endless staffing for that. So we really start with those students we really feel would need it the most, and that's who we're reaching out to right now. After that, we will be looking at some of the other recommendations that come through or requests. So please fill out that sooner than later so we know our numbers. Secondly, I we had another survey that came out, which is our a TK survey. So some of you probably know who have some younger ones that the state is really pushing to have a transitional kindergarten option for all students. And so our survey is just to start gathering some data around what that looks like for our communities. So obviously, those of you who have been on our campus, which some of you haven't, we don't have endless facilities. We do not have we have every little nook and cranny kind of booked up. And so our first step is to see what the interest is. And then we're working administration to look at what we can make happen for our future TK kids. So it will be a slow rollout. Schools are really all kind of navigating this together right now, especially charter schools who have limited facilities. So we are definitely in the investigation phase, and we hope to be able to slow roll a program out. Ultimately, we're really excited about this because this is a really phenomenal opportunity for our students to get in early and, you know, have a pre-K experience so that they're even more ready for kindergarten. So that was the second survey. Also, we're surveying just about after school options. We're also, I know Friends was one of their big drives this gala was to create some more free after school programs for our students. So within Friends money and also some state funding that we will get for students who potentially qualify for, whether it's, we call them unduplicated students, free and reduced, students who take advantage of our meal plan, what can we offer our families at no cost? And so we're also surveying parents in that area right now. So please fill that out for us so we can get more information and data from that end. Finally, we are another site modernization option update. So some of you may know that we have been in site modernization mode with the district for a big upgrade on our campus, and the dates have changed, and we thought we were going to be in construction at this point. But right now, the construction is due to start during the summer. They will bring in their, they call the pre-construction team, and they'll set up what they need to in order to make start the building, which will actually start in the purple playground. Right now, we thought we were going to have to move a lot of bungalows. Right now, that will not happen. Students will not be displaced next year. We will have access to a lot of the blacktop and the turf. So we'll have some room for the kids to play. The purple playground up at the top, which is kind of up by Benny's, that's going to be the first stage of our site modernization and construction. We will not have to change any of the drop-off and pickup procedures. We thought we were going to have to change that too, but currently we don't think we're going to have to change that. So that is our latest site modernization update. We're very excited. It'll be a longer process, but it's going to be fantastic. And we will at that point have space to really develop our TK program as well, so that we can invite a lot more families into Einstein earlier. And
Thank
I
you,
will,
Greta.
yep, I'll pass it
Thank you
over
so
to
much.
Andy.
I think Andy Truckers can start now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Since the last time we spoke, we've had just update everybody. We had a very, very successful round of state testing. Our kids had a whole different spirit about them this round. It seemed like they really took ownership. We tried to chunk the test out for them. This test was very, very different from tests in the past. It was probably about a third of the length, but you know, part of our mission and our goal was to develop the value around testing and having our students put their best foot forward, give it 100%. And I feel that our kids did that. So thanks to our parents and our community for helping partner in that. We look forward to seeing what our scores are going to be like this summer, to see where our strengths are, when our areas of concern are that we can be able to get better at. Right now is a time of the year where we're getting ready to celebrate our kids. And with that said, being able to provide them some experiential opportunities, some different opportunities in IB, we have a focus on balance. And for us as a community to be able to provide that for our students, we had 130 of our 7th graders just returned from Catalina Island. I'm glad to report that not too many of them got seasick, but again, an experiential opportunity for our kids, an experience that hopefully was a great one for them and they'll remember for the rest of their life. We're also preparing for a spring concert for our students. We're trying to lock in a venue. We're working very, very hard to find a venue for our community and for our kids so we can celebrate them. We're gearing up for promotion Thursday the 16th at Spreckles Theater for our 8th graders as we celebrate their transition to the next step, a huge step for them into high school. And currently, in the spirit of enrichment, our enrichment programs are at max capacity. We've got those going on after school. Thank you to friends. Thank you to everyone that's supporting our vision and our mission to provide the balance piece for our kids, to provide these enrichment opportunities, these opportunities for our kids to connect to something outside of the academics, something that they might find, that they might become passionate, that become a lifelong connection for them. And that's really the whole spirit of what our goal is about. And I just want to thank you guys. It was an amazing venue. Thank you to all of you for the kind, positive words. You know, this is a time of the year where we need to hear those positive comments and those really sweet words. And thank you to all of you for your kindness and the comments that you shared with us that evening. Please forgive me for my dance ability. I need a lot of help on the dance floor, but I think it was a great night. It was a fun night for all. And some of the little things that are done that have been completed for our students this year in a step of getting back to normal, small things that make a big difference. Yearbooks are completed. They're beautiful. Shout out to Miss Jessica Leplemay, a first-year teacher that we brought on last year that took over yearbook. And for those of our parents that get a chance to see those yearbooks, I think you'll be very, very impressed. But we still got some weeks to go. We're going to take things one day at a time. We're going to stay as positive and productive as we can and make sure that collectively we're going to finish out this year on a strong and positive note. And thank you all for being a part of that.
Thank you so much, Andy Truckers. Thank you so much, all the administrators. And I think we have the question and answers. Kathy Montes will read the guidelines now, and she will guide us through this, please. Kathy.
Thank you, Peggy. The meeting guidelines for this evening. This is a virtual format, so we will follow that all live chat functions have been disabled. The raise hand feature will be enabled. That's located at the bottom of your screen under where the reaction emoji is. Then speakers will be called on in the order their hand was raised. Each speaker will have up to 2 minutes for their question or comment. Each speaker is limited to one question until all questions have been answered or the 60-minute time limit has been reached. When your name is called, please be prepared to speak. If you do not respond when your name is called, the next speaker will be called upon. Please speak slowly and clearly to accommodate translators. Expectations for audience conduct will be the following. Any verbal comments that are deemed abusive, discriminating, threatening, racist, vulgar, obscene, or harassing will not be tolerated. Any libel, slander, or personal attacks of any kind, including the use of offensive terms that target specific individuals or groups. Thank you, Peggy. Our first question is Matt Kill. Matt, are you in the room? Okay, go ahead, Matt.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody. So I have a couple of things I want to talk about or ask about tonight. So Dr. Sharetta, a couple months ago, the safety plan was presented, I think, during the one of the Board of Trustees meeting. And I think that given recent events, it's particularly, I'm sure it's prominent in your mind. At that time, the question about family engagement was brought up. And I personally, having been a trauma surgeon, asked how I could get involved with the safety plan. I came to find out subsequently that when the safety committee or the committee for the safety plan was coming together, another physician at the school actually offered to bring Stop the Bleed to the program and possible training for the teachers. And that didn't work out. So I'm wondering who would we go about asking, and how can parents that bring a certain skill set that unfortunately has probably become relevant at this point to train the teachers so that in the event that something happens, the teachers are prepared. It's basically programs that are like CPR. So I'm sure the teachers are trained in CPR, and unfortunately, this may be something they need to be trained about. So that's my first question. The second question, this is kind of specific. So talking with some other parents and noticing the other day, there's one classroom in particular. I think it's a second grade classroom. It's on the corner of Ash and 30th that literally is eye level. And if somebody not well-meaning wanted to, they could jump through the window. And that seems like a pretty vulnerable access point. So has that been mentioned? Is there a plan to put bars in the windows? Like, should something be done to make that as difficult to access as other points in the school? So if you could comment on either of those, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kill. I'll take those in reverse order. I'm not comfortable discussing remediation or lack of remediation about safety on a public call. I'd be happy to communicate with you directly about that. I'm not aware of which window or corner that is. And that kind of segues into my next comments around the safety plan and what we do to train folks. So I think everyone can appreciate that there are elements of a safety plan that are public, and then there are elements of safety planning that aren't public for real important reasons, right? There's stuff we're not going to put on the website about certain elements of our emergency responses. And that's not just Einstein, that's San Diego Unified, that's any school district. There's public and private elements of safety plans. That having been said, I'm not aware of the suggestion of a formal suggestion or review of Stop the Bleed. I'd be happy to take a look at what that program is about. So if you would just privately direct that to me, that would be helpful. And again, I don't mean to dismiss parent offers, but I think, again, for the similar reasons, like there's a parent probably in this area more than others, we have to be careful about what parent involvement looks like in our planning and how close folks get to the inner details of how we respond to emergencies. Now, training in response to trauma perhaps is kind of in a different category. So I would take a look at information if you forward it to me, Mr. Gill.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christine Roche. Christine?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. So I have a couple questions. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you guys tonight. One question I have is more of a personal question with my kids that are in elementary school. Then the other question I have is more for other parents that I've been talking to recently that have kids in the middle school. So my first question about the elementary school, my second grader, you know, I hear occasionally that they're watching videos in school, and I have not asked this of their respective teacher, but this past Friday, my son mentioned how they watched the entire movie of WALL-E, which I think is a Pixar movie. And it was a reward type of a thing that apparently the kids all contributed and got some benefit. And I thought, well, I don't think that's really appropriate for an hour-and-a-half movie to be watched during the school setting. And then yesterday, my son was in his German class, and the teacher there had a video that they watched that was a significant length, but it was in English in their German week. So I haven't, like I said, I haven't had a chance to talk with the respective teachers, but it really doesn't sit well with me. I grew up not watching TV at school. So I know the technology is different now, and there are certain things that can be educational, but I don't see how watching a WALL-E movie for an hour and a half on a Friday with, I think, a juice box and popcorn is appropriate. So I'm curious to know what your response is to that. If this is becoming more of a common thing, I hope not. And then my other question is relating to advanced German. The middle school parents that I've been talking to have been struggling with, and I don't think it's a new thing. I believe it was brought to your guys' attention and the concerns were raised before COVID. But I think that there are some middle school parents that are really concerned about the advanced German and the instruction, the curriculum. And I know, Dr. Schroeder, you talked about German is difficult to recruit, difficult what San Diego High is going through. But I'm just wondering if there's a way that we could reevaluate the curriculum at the middle school as it relates to advanced German. My understanding is that there's beginner German and advanced German, but it almost seems like there's also a middle in between, so that maybe there are actually 3 levels. And I'm hoping that we could maybe revisit the advanced German curriculum to make it more challenging. And because what I've understood is that there are a fair amount of parents that speak German at home that their kids aren't challenged enough. So they just switch to Spanish, which is not really ideal. They'd love to stay in the German track and continue to advance, but they're not really challenged. And so they're not really pleased with the current curriculum.
Thank you, Ms. Roche. Your time is up. I'm sorry.
So I'll take that question. We're very committed to the development of both our German and Spanish programs. And as Dr. Schroeder had pointed out, we are always looking for how we can continue to find the best people to help and support our programs. This year was a very, very challenging year. Our vision and our focus was last year was to develop a higher level German enrichment piece for our advanced kids. And we developed a German speech and debate class. With that said, I would say that raising the bar for German and for Spanish, we would like to be able to work with our parents to see how we could provide additional opportunities for our kids and for our curriculum development. And our practice at looking at our curriculum is a continuum. I'm not going to make any excuses or as far as use COVID as a crutch. But what I can say is that the conversation that we had at the beginning of the year, we're with a small group of parents. I would hope that parents would be brave enough that we could have more direct conversations and to see how we can be able to continue to develop both our German as well as our Spanish classes, both during the regular school day, as well as develop opportunities after school as well, in the spirit of a higher level possibly, or an entry level for language for all students.
And hi there, I'll take the first part of the question. And I think you hit it right on the head. The first, for me, if I were you, I would reach out to teachers and ask what their intention is, because there are definitely times where there is an earned reward over a period of time where a class decides and picks an award situation, or and the kids usually have an opportunity in picking what that is. And so there's that piece, but there's also lots of our IB units now are supported by video. It's an engaging tool for a lot of our IB units of inquiry. And so some of those might have to be in English based on just the content and the level of the content and language that's accessible to our students. I do not know this particular situation. So that's why I say reach out to the teacher. And in addition, there's a lot of what we do called little brain breaks, where teachers will use shorter kind of brain breaks where it's a video where they're doing something active. And depending on the grade level, this can be done several times a day too, where it's getting them moving so that they can get back and be focused again. So there is a lot of technology used for different reasons. There's also some of the, what teachers have done in some of the lower grades is last year they created an entire, portfolio of lessons that they taught online. We called them Loom Lessons. And teachers will sometimes use an old recorded Loom lesson to present a concept so that they can also move around a classroom and give kids individual instruction. So there's a lot of uses for technology that are very different, especially after COVID, than we had growing up. I'm included. I think we got one movie a year, maybe, and one field trip. And so my first thing is reach out to teachers and ask them. It's not, a constant, it would not be a constant we're watching movies for the sake of killing time. I think teachers, opposite of that, we're always trying to figure out how do I fit everything in? And that's always their conversation. So it is the opposite of like, oh, let me waste an hour here watching a movie. It's more like, how do I fit everything I need to fit in the time that we have and give all our students all the specials that they have. So that is, I know, their constant conversation. So thanks.
Thank you, Principal Bowders and Trackus. Our next speaker is Yajahira Balanzar. Ms. Balanzar, if you could unmute your speaker.
Sí. Mi nombre es Yajaira Balanzar. Es un poquito difícil para mí porque después de 5 años es la primera vez que decido no estar en la reunión, sino que hablar. Pero después de lo que pasó ayer, quiero como compartir mi preocupación. Tengo 2 niñas en la escuela primaria y me siento realmente preocupada. Incluso hoy pues no quería ni siquiera enviarlas. Yo sé que no está en la escuela, pero quería compartir esto de acuerdo a lo que el señor David compartía sobre la seguridad. Para mí, que siempre lo he dicho yo y preguntándome sola que qué hace la escuela más que nada en poner seguridad, qué hace para poder educar más a los niños de cómo ser más compasivos, más enseñarles la igualdad, lo cual mis niñas durante 5 años que han estado yendo a la escuela han sufrido de comentarios un poco desagradables, y me gustaría saber cómo están trabajando o cómo irán a trabajar para poder un poquito en eso, no sé, educar o enseñar, o de qué manera pueden compartir que debe de haber igualdad entre los niños y que no hay clase social, ni raza, ni nada de eso.
Gracias, señora Balanzar. Greta, Ms. Bowders, did you have the translation on for that?
I missed the first part. I had it on for the second part. I got the piece about understand what we're doing to support kids in equity.
Yeah, so I'll just summarize from the first part. that she was very worried about sending her children to the elementary school today in light of the events from yesterday. And in addition to wondering about security measures at the elementary, and then it segued into I think the portion that you heard in translation.
Okay, thank you. So one of the things that we have really focused on this year is, the entry points of our school and knowing who is coming in to our campus at any given time. You'll see myself in the back gate every morning and every afternoon, and you'll see other teachers and staff members in the front gate. And that's often very strategic in that we start seeing and recognizing all of you and knowing who your kids are. And so as long as we feel the more we can know our families, right, the more we know what's going on in the community. We have, it's an imperfect campus. We are not, we have a fence around us, but we are outside. And so there's constant monitoring of what's going on in our neighborhood by safety crew, by our teachers, and, understanding what the vulnerable spots are at different times. In terms of, what we're doing to create an equitable environment. And I agree, this is an area that we continuously work on. And I can tell you, as a staff, we undertook a lot of training with an organization that really focused on equity and inclusion of all of our students. And so that's training starting with our staff, that's actually rolling down to our students as well, and in the No Place for Hate, which is very specifically a group of students are picking activities. So we're, understand that every child needs to be recognized for who they are and respected for who they are. And so recognizing we are different, but we all need to be treated with respect. And so we're training our students in that. We also have a program called Safe School Ambassadors, which is across the schools as well, which is teaching our students. And there's a group of fourth graders that are trained for 2 days on how to be what we call upstanders and not bystanders. So if they're hearing something happen, they have the confidence and some skills to actually intervene and to have their voice. And so we have many adults on campus, obviously, but adults don't hear everything, right? And so if we can train our students in how to react as well, that's a priority. And thirdly, we start each of our day with what we call a morning meeting. So that is a chance for the teachers and students to create a community in their classroom where they talk about these things. So it's creating a safe space for kids to be able to say, hey, this happened, I don't like it, let's problem solve together. So the more opportunity for kids to have chances to develop those skills and to resolve some of those conflicts, that's what we've been striving to do. Is it perfect? No. And when we do hear of incidents, please bring them to us. We take care of what we hear, and students are really taught how hurtful comments can be. And then if there's need be, there's consequences, but these are learning experience for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Bowders. Our next speaker is Kathy Washington. Kathy, can you unmute your microphone?
Yes, thank you. And just thank you, Dr. Shredder. I really appreciate it when you do send, sorry, I have a cold, but I really appreciate it when you do send those emails out. I can't even imagine how hard it is to write them, but I appreciate you doing that constantly. I have a middle school child, and I know that there's, middle school is challenging, but I was just curious if the school, or if you've heard anything, programs coming down from the state, because mental health is such a huge issue, and it's gotten way worse during COVID, especially with our students. That I've seen it with both of my kids and other families and everything, that these kids are still being affected by COVID and that isolation. So are there any saying the school does an amazing job already in addressing this, but I'm just wondering if there's any plans to do more, like sex ed class that you guys have, maybe having classes focused on just mental health, where every child is required to take classes to learn coping skills, to learn, how to, like, when you were explaining with the student ambassadors, like those type of like communicating and that sort of thing, and anything that might be available from the state to provide more counseling and therapy for the students, and being able to just give them a safe place to talk and be open about things that they're feeling.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Washington. I'll defer to Principal Trackus in a minute. I just want to thank you for your kind words and let you know that in a general sense, because we are right now in the budget planning a portion or a section of the year, this is definitely part of what we've been in discussions around. How can we continue to bolster those services on both of our campuses? But I did want to make one tangential comment to that, which is it's students, it's families, it's also staff. We have, and obviously we're not going to announce it to the entire community, but we have a lot of internal referrals and supports for our staff for confidential counseling and through the county Office of Education in San Diego, et cetera, too, but there can always be more. So I'll defer to Mr. Trackus for the details.
Ms. Washington, thank you very, very much for bringing up this very important topic for us all. The health, safety, well-being of our students is our number one priority. If hearts and minds aren't in the right place, learning will never occur. With that said, our strategic move going into next year to be able to incorporate social emotional learning and all the things that you outlined and described, we're going to onboard an advisory class, which is going to happen. Which will take place, 4 days a week, which will focus on coping skills. We'll focus in also on touching on, and we're working with and purchasing right now, proven programs, one of them being the responsive classroom, which is being used at the elementary school. And there's a few others that we're going to be incorporating into a curriculum for next year in advisory. The advisory period is exactly that what you had described, is a period for us to be able to have these open conversations with our students. It's an opportunity for us also to be able to bring in a couple other pieces as well. There's an IB piece that we like to incorporate in that advisory class, as well as an executive functioning piece. But the majority and the focus and the push for the effort in advisory class is the delivery of a social emotional curriculum, which isn't just good for our students, but it's good for all of us. And we've presented that with our staff. Our staff's on board. For our parents, we will be adding another period, and we're going to be having this advisory class, which will focus on social emotional learning, IB, executive functioning, starting this coming school year. And that'll take place 4 days a week.
Thank you, Principal Trackus. Our next speaker is Matt Kill. Mr. Kill, if you could unmute your microphone.
Okay, so part two. So these comments are relate to, again, family engagement, which I talked about at the last board meeting. And so I talked about family engagement at the last board meeting. I also made some comments about the No Place for Hate program in the committee. And one of the recommendations of the board was that, the Board of Trustees, that is, was that they do a parent university coming up during the school year. And so I think this format, the question and answer back and forth, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, this is the most meaningful opportunity for families to engage with the administration, hands down. And I'm hoping that the parent universities will move towards more meaningful engagement in the next school year. And so my question is, are there plans to incorporate parents? So for instance, Ms. Balanzar, I only caught a little bit of what she said, but I think her commentary and her experience, just like my commentary and my experience being the parent on the committee, would be meaningful for planning the parent university and even conducting it. So as opposed to being the passive recipient of the whatever ideas the committee wants to convey to the parents, that there be a diversity of thought, not only of the ideas about the committee and about the program, but that parents be involved in an open discussion. So is that something that mechanistically is possible, Dr. Sharetta? And if so, how do we as parents look into that and make ourselves available?
Let me see if I can capture that. There was a number of different elements to that. In terms of the meaningful engagement, I'm not really sure. I think that to say that parent universities that haven't, that parent universities to date have not involved meaningful engagement might not be entirely accurate. I'm not sure how that's measured. I respect your take on the value of today, and I too value the format of today. There are also other formats too that have their place. I don't know how a parent university on No Place for Hate would be structured. That still hasn't been determined. In terms of involvement on the No Place for Hate committee or group on each campus, are you suggesting that we open it up to more parents? Or I wasn't really sure what the question is.
No, but so the didactic parent universities where there's a speaker that talks to us, especially when there's no opportunity for back and forth questions, and there's been quite a few of them, probably as a result of COVID. Those could just be videotaped and put on YouTube, in my opinion. It's the back and forth, the questions here that I think really is meaningful engagement. And I think in the No Place for Hate, as opposed to presenting perhaps one perspective, that being the teacher and staff perspective that are on the committee about it, I think that a meaningful parent university involving parents would have input from me. I would like to be involved because I was the parent on the committee this last year, and my perspective is different than perhaps most of the rest of the committee. But also, I think the comments made about equity that Ms. Ballanzar made, which I didn't catch them all, I think that her direct input to the committee about what parents are noticing and what parents are experiencing and hearing from the kids, that should mold where the program goes. And right now, I don't know how much input they might be getting input from parents that have experience that should perhaps direct or could help where the program's directed. So I want parents and families to be involved in all steps, not just be lectured at or to. That's my thing.
Okay, well, we'll take that on advisement. The parent university offerings for each year are developed based on a number of factors, one being a survey of parents. I know there was a suggestion at the last board meeting about the value of including No Place for Hate as one of the topics. I think it's a good topic. And we'll get to the format piece. We'll take that definitely on advisement. I do think that when there's a plus and a minus to being on Zoom, right? The plus is people can can log in from wherever, and it fits much more into flexible work schedules. It can be recorded, et cetera. It is also sometimes trickier to have the discussion piece. And so we'll have to see. I don't believe, and I don't want to speak for our board, but I don't believe that the board is mandating that we have to, do a specific format. And I'm certainly not going to micromanage the format of all our parent universities. Is it logistically possible? Absolutely. Should there be a portion where we hear from parents? I would say yes. But the specifics on the format, I don't know. In terms of the parent, Ms. Ballanzar, who spoke, I don't see why she wouldn't, if she so wishes, why she couldn't weigh in on providing a perspective in No Place for Hate on her. I think she's elementary. So for the elementary committee, I don't see any impediment to that.
Thank you, Superintendent Sharetta. That is all the questions we have. Peggy, I will turn it over to you to close out the meeting.
Okay, thank you so much, administrators and speakers. Anybody from the administrators, do you guys want to say something at the end of the meeting? Okay.
I actually, I would, Peggy.
Yes.
We're at the time of the year when folks are tired, families are tired, teachers are tired, students are tired. And what was so heartening for me being at the gala was that in this year, more than any other year, I heard 99% positive comments about Einstein and about what's being done and the challenges of trying to navigate through something that hasn't happened in 100 years in the world, really, in terms of the pandemic. So I wanted to really thank Friends for bringing that spirit to the gala. It's always with a little bit of trepidation that I go to events like that because I understand people have pent up questions and concerns. That's not really the night to address at a granular level everyone's individual situation. But I get it. As a parent, your kid is number one in your life. I understand that part. The comments were universally really positive. I really appreciate that. I'm hoping that we can also bring that same spirit forward as we finish out this school year and then we look to the fall. There's no way that we're going to satisfy every single person on every front with our response to mask or not, and how and when and under which circumstances, to fortify or not our campuses. For each person who thinks we should fortify and bolster and arm and bar and do this, we have 2 or 3 people who usually don't speak at these meetings who think that we need to open up more and embrace more and hug more and accept more, right? And so it's not my job to pick a side in that, but we do really, I'm hoping that we continue to work on this thing collaboratively going forward. This is the last evening with admin before we break for the summer. And so I really wanted to say that now when we get a little bit of a break as we roll into the summer months and then come back reinvigorated in the fall, ready to go again. So thank you, Peggy, and everyone on this call.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David, for your kind words. Yes, that gala was very successful. And I know we are not, we had our question and answers, and we are not taking any more questions because we reached the time. And thank you so much, David. Thank you, Mrs. Bowders. Thank you, Andy Truckers. I will see you next time. Actually, this is the last evening with the administration for this school year. We are going to see you in the new year. And I thank everyone. And just a small reminder, we are still looking for new board members for Friends of Albert Einstein Academies. We need some volunteers for secretary, for being a fundraising coordinator, for being an elementary school room parent coordinator, and we need an event coordinator. Thank you so much. Please, please, please email us to communications@foaea.org, and we will get back to you. Thank you, everyone, for being the members here, being the administrators here. Thank you, everything. See you. Bye.